The government has confirmed they arranged and paid for the chartered plane that former President Duterte rode to the Netherlands Tuesday. Malacanang did not disclose how much was spent on the chartered flight, but was clear the government will not cover costs of Duterte once at The Hague.
Opo, ina-admit po na ang palasyo po, ang nagbayad, ang gobyerno po. After natin dala po ang dating Pangulo sa ICC, wala na po kamay o responsibilidad ang gobyerno kay dating Pangulong Duterte.
The palace also assured a fair trial be given to the former president, but will comply if the ICC issues a seize order of the Duterte's assets while the trial is ongoing. At the same time, they dismissed claims that Duterte's arrest was a demolition job and denied accusations the president is conducting loyalty checks within the Philippine National Police.
Paano po magiging demolition job kung ito pong kasong to ay na-file na? Hindi pa po panahon ng eleksyon, hindi pa po panahon ni Pangulong Marcos. Ito po, naisampa po yata to kung di ako nagkakamali taong 2017. Matagal na nga po eh. Sa ating pong paningin, ang pagkakalat po ng mga gintong klaseng kwento ay para po mas lumaki ang simpatya sa dating Pangulong Duterte.
Former President Rodrigo Duterte will be facing a 3-judge panel from the ICC pretrial chamber in just a few hours, and many are wondering what will happen during the hearing. Here, his identity as a suspect will be verified. The trial language will be determined, and he will be formally informed of the charges against him and his rights under the ICC Rome Statute, including choosing a lawyer from the ICC's accredited list. Duterte may request for an interim release while awaiting trial, but the court will only grant this if they are certain he will attend hearings and he will not pose a risk to witnesses, victims, nor evidence. Now, even if the interim release is approved, he may not be allowed to return to the Philippines. A retired ICC judge has also confirmed that VIP treatment and a hospital arrest will not be allowed for Duterte. The pretrial chamber hearing is scheduled today at 1 p.m. Dutch time or 9 p.m. Manila time.
And as we await former President Duterte's appearance before an ICC tribunal, let's discuss what may happen later. And joining us tonight to discuss this is Atty. Dindo De Leon, alumnus at the Hague Academy of International Law and the Georgetown University Law Center. He's also the director of the Human Rights and People Empowerment Center. Welcome back to The Big Story, Attorney.
It's a pleasure to be back.
You know, anticipation is so high. We're just an hour away, no? Counting the minutes to the first time we'll be seeing the former president after he boarded that plane, and of course, pictures sent to us. So what can we expect now that there is an indication that a postponement may be asked?
You know, in international law, we have to understand that every case is what we call in law sui generis, meaning to say, especially when it comes to dealing with crimes against humanity, it is not something that is well set. No? The reason being, there aren't a lot of instances wherein the crimes against humanity is considered.
So unique, you mean?
It's always unique. It's it's a class of its own, right? Meaning to say, there is some sort of flexibility when it comes to determining what should be done next. But based on the rules, what we can see is what's going to be next is, of course, his rights will be read to him. The language of the proceedings will be chosen. The third one is, of course, the accusations will be read to him. There might be a plea. It's not required, right? What's required is only an acknowledgement. But if he says, okay, I'm guilty, then afterwards there can be already
surprise. You think he might say that?
Well, he's been admitting on record all of the things, and given how bombastic the personality of the former president is, again, this is sui generis. We don't know what could happen next. But there's already a precedent in the ICC wherein there was an admission and a plea of guilty was entered, and forthwith there was a judgment that was rendered.
No need for a trial, of course, if
Because
you say.
there's already an admission,
admission.
right? An admission and a plea of guilty, right? So there can be that possibility. In other words, we are all now continuing students of international law because, as I've mentioned, there aren't a lot of experts.
We are entering a new realm.
A new realm. You know, my classmates in the Hague Academy of International Law was congratulating President Duterte because he will be advancing international law because he will have a lot of contributions. International law students all over the world will always cite the Philippine
Yes.
case, right? Because this was a successful arrest and the proceedings will, of course, set a precedent.
Infamous, you mean? Infamous.
Unfortunately, the Philippines will be cited for contributing in international law because of the atrocities that, you know, our very own people suffered.
What do you make of his statement on the plane before he disembarked? He sent this, it was posted on his Facebook page.
Well, of course, you know,
Pwede ba yung i-enter ng evidence? Is that an admission?
there are a lot of things that can be entered in evidence, and everything, all these actions can be entered into evidence. But, you know, the initial sentiment was, but parang siya pa yung victim, no? I think there has to be a quick reflection on our people, no? It is not Rodrigo Duterte that is the victim. He is an accused in this particular case. He is not a victim. He is there to face justice and the wheels of justice. He will be given his day in court, which means that he will have a chance to explain his defense. He's not being oppressed, right? Because if there's an explanation of his defense, there's a possibility that he can be exonerated. So if they're saying that all he did was legal, was perfectly okay, was justifiable, then he will have his opportunity to present those defense in court. In other words, let's allow the proceedings and the process to take its natural course. Before actually judging the ICC, let's wait for the entire course to happen. I think this is a call for sobriety because ultimately our loyalty must be with the nation, with the rule of law, regardless of the personalities. I know we have different persuasions, you know, we have different people who we support, but ultimately, let's ask ourselves, where is our loyalty? And the loyalty has to be doing what is right, the rule of law, and no one should be above the Constitution, the rule of law, including international law.
Well, Attorney, let's talk about this appeal for a postponement, right? There's only an hour left before the initial proceedings. How likely is it that the ICC will grant that appeal for a postponement? And historically, I mean, what grounds have been approved to grant that postponement?
I heard that there's going to be a postponement. The camp of President Duterte will seek that. I don't think there is a likely justification, except for health emergencies,
medical
maybe
emergency,
medical emergencies. But he was checked. Remember, this is the International Criminal Court. They have good facilities. They have very good doctors.
They know the condition
They
of
know
his
the
health.
condition. It's not very like the Philippines, right? Where all of a sudden you will wear a neck brace, you will come in with a wheelchair, and then all of a sudden you'll get VIP treatment or special treatment. It's not like that, right? Because they have the facilities. They have been dealing with international criminals, and they will be treated accordingly based on facts, not based on just comorbidities, for example. So in other words, it's not enough for you to just present that you have
Okay, but
comorbidities.
that's for health. What if, you know, we just arrived, we're not prepared, etc.?
This is just, let's remember that this is just initial
Procedural
appearance.
lang ito eh.
And this is just initial appearance.
Oh, initial.
The pre-trial will probably be scheduled 60 to 90 days after. That is to give them time to also take a look at the evidence, to prepare their defense, to confer their counsel. In other words, the Rome Statute actually took that into consideration. And of course, because, you know, this is international law, they will be treated with dignity, like real human beings, right? Something that did not happen for all the victims, but they will still be given all of those due process. And that includes giving them time to, of course, prepare their defense intelligently.
Is there a possibility Mr. Duterte will ask that the language be in Bisaya?
That can be a possibility. And in fact, you know, I've been taking a look at the job postings, no, job
ICC?
postings in the ICC. And there have been a lot of
Ba't
job
mag-a-apply
postings
ka?
on, I'm just taking a look at it, you know, just to keep your
Yeah.
options, right? Because I'm a graduate of the Hague Academy. Sometimes you want to come back to the Hague. It's a beautiful place.
Okay.
No, the detention facility of Rodrigo Duterte is beside the beach, fresh air, right? So that's where we
Right
stayed
now
as
it
well.
looks very cold. No?
Yes, that's true. But ultimately, there are job postings wherein they
So
were looking
meron?
for
Did you see
Cebuano
Cebuano?
interpreters. Yes.
This was recently?
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
think it's still in the posting, if I'm not mistaken. But the last time that I checked, there was Cebuano translators. They're looking for it, and it's just that, you know, what's funny was it's what those who are being prioritized are ICC member states.
Eh, hindi
So
na
I don't know
member
how
state
they're
ang
gonna settle
Pilipinas.
that. Maybe there were people who changed their nationality and then who speak
Yeah, that's
Cebuano, because there are a lot of
I'm sure
Filipinos.
we're scattered all
We're
over the
scattered
world.
because of
Come
the
on.
diaspora, right?
Yeah.
But the priority has to be ICC member states. But they're looking in particular Bisaya and Cebuano.
Because he may
translators.
just ask that.
Yes, I think the ICC will be prepared for any eventuality. They have resources. Remember that there are 120 plus nations who are members of the ICC, and of course they contribute to make sure that this international mechanism, which serves as their safeguard too against despots, will actually be successful.
And Attorney, what types of evidence do you think will be presented later in order for the judges to determine if it will proceed to trial? I mean, how much evidence will be presented against the former
This is not yet
president?
the pre-trial, so this is just the initial appearance. So
Yeah.
what we will expect is only if they have interim measures of relief that they would want to avail of, just the rights, and then maybe they will just schedule the trial. So later, we don't expect any presentation of evidence, except maybe with respect to the interim measure of relief that they would want to avail
Avail
of,
of.
right?
Okay, Attorney, here's a question I have now. Will the president have time to speak before the court? And as you mentioned earlier, he has a history of being bombastic, right? I mean, how can the ICC ensure that the president will remain composed and that he will adhere to the protocols there during the proceedings, given his history of, I mean, unscripted remarks, of verbal outbursts?
If I were his counsel, it's not going to be the ICC's job to make sure that he's composed. It should be his counsel's job, because there are things that he might say there that might actually incriminate him. Having said that, in the ICC rules, if an accused or anyone becomes unruly, to the point of disrupting the proceedings, they can excuse them from the proceedings, and even if he has the right to participate, he can even be asked to participate via remote video conferencing if he becomes unruly. So if it's his right to attend the proceedings, if he is unruly, he's disruptive, then there will be mechanisms to ensure that the proceedings will continue without his disruption.
But what's the rule? Does he speak through his counsel, or will he be allowed to address the court?
As a general rule, of course, it's through the council. But again, this is sui generis, right? There are instances wherein maybe a former head of state or somebody who committed crimes against humanity will want to speak. And then the court, it is within the discretion of the court to listen to him. So if he raises his hand and the court sees nothing wrong with allowing him to speak, and his counsel cannot even stop him, then the court will exercise its discretion to listen to him, and always the consideration is whether it will advance the greater interest of justice.
All right, well, Attorney, back here at home, I mean, in Davao City, we had a reporter reporting earlier, right, that Mayor Baste Duterte flew back home to Davao from Manila because he heard reports that yung bahay daw po ni former President Duterte, i-raid daw ng police force. I mean, how true is that? Is the ICC really issuing a seize order on the assets of the accused, in this case, Mr. Duterte?
The ICC can issue seize orders, right? But it will undergo proceedings, right? In other words, we expect that there's going to be
That's in the
some
main
sort,
trial.
yes, in the main trial, or maybe there's going to be an incident, and they will be allowed to participate therein, right? Or even if there's going to be freeze orders of assets, maybe not the house, right? Because the house is, the reason why they're freezing assets is because this might be used to, contaminate evidence or to, the
With
resources,
witnesses,
the
yeah.
witnesses, tamper with the witnesses. So my suspicion is if assuming that the word of Baste Duterte were to be believed, and maybe any raid will be in relation to another proceeding, not necessarily the ICC.
Attorney Dino, I did a quick check of past precedents of postponements of the initial appearance. And then in the case of Thomas Dielo, there was, they agreed to a postponement because of non-disclosure of evidence. But in this case, that does not apply, right?
And this is the initial appearance, or we're talking about the pre-trial already?
Pre-trial proceedings.
That's the pre-trial proceedings.
Yeah.
This is the initial
I
appearance,
see.
right?
Isn't the initial appearance
Okay.
part of the pre-trial proceedings?
It's the first thing, and then the pre-trial proceeding,
Okay.
which is there is already going to be presentation of evidence. In which case, remember that they have to be allowed to prepare their defense, which means that the prosecutor should already be able to disclose pieces of evidence to them so that they can prepare within that 60 to 90-day period.
So let's not confuse the initial appearance with a pre-trial.
Correct.
This is merely procedural and
Yes.
there's no need to postpone.
At least for the initial appearance. Maybe this is the avenue wherein they will file for postponement of the pretrial, right? Meaning to say, but in that particular case, if my memory serves me right, some pieces of evidence were not properly disclosed to them.
Correct.
Near when the pretrial was already about to start, right? In this case, they have a lot of time to still prepare, 60 to 90 days.
Okay. Okay. Will decisions be made by the judges at this time?
For now,
Or will they need time to deliberate?
for the interim measures of relief, if it's something urgent that they can really prove, then they can decide there and there. They will just confer because it's a three-woman panel, right? So they can confer, or they may say, okay, we'll take this under advisement, and they will still deliberate, maybe a day or two, but it's not going to be long, right? So for the initial hearing, I think the decisions will just be on the language, right? Minutes will be taken that in fact his rights were read, and that and the accusations against him, and there are a lot of other housekeeping, like for example, what would be the language, and then the parties will agree when will be the next trial dates. So it's like really the
Parang timeline, parang checking
right?
kung kailan, setting the dates.
Yes, so these are housekeeping matters that they will just agree on.
Okay. The fact that he was not booked, is that a flaw?
Booked in the Philippines, you
Yeah,
mean?
he was not. He refused to have his mugshot taken, his fingerprints.
In the Philippines.
In the Philippines.
Yes. I'm not yet privy of what happened in the Netherlands, right? But again, you will just be booked in the Philippines. Mugshots will be taken, fingerprinted if you're being arrested in the Philippines. Remember, there's a different concept here.
Okay.
He was delivered. Surrendered.
Surrendered.
He was not
Turned
arrested. He was
over.
turned over. They were carrying out a warrant of arrest, but the arrest really,
Came from
but he was
Interpol.
just being surrendered to the arresting authorities, right? So I think he was fingerprinted, if I'm not mistaken, and all the bookings happened in the Netherlands when he got off in the local court of Netherlands before he went to the Hague and did the medical checkup. Now he's gonna do his
So
appearance.
hindi naman flaw yun.
And even if it's a flaw, it does not divest jurisdiction away from the ICC. Let's remember that. Flaw in terms of the arrest does not divest the ICC with the jurisdiction over the subject matter.
All right, well, Attorney, you have Attorney Harry Roque saying that once he receives recognition as legal counsel with the ICC, one of the first things he will do is to question the legality of the arrest. Is the ICC required to hear that petition first before proceeding with the pre-trial?
Well, most probably they will settle it before pretrial. In any event, of course, he will question that. I am having a difficult time, with all honesty, determining the grounds that he will raise, because they even went the extra way. Remember, again, he was not. He was just being surrendered. They still read him his rights. That's not even required by the ICC charter, even by our domestic rules. He was treated properly. The police officers were very
He was
professional.
shown the communication from the ICC.
Correct, right?
The warrant.
He will try all these what I presume to be dilatory, but the ICC will be ready. Again, it's not like sometimes, unfortunately, in the Philippines, wherein they can just carry their weight around. Right? This is the International Criminal Court. Most of the staff there, the judges there, are learned in international law. Hopefully, Attorney Harry Roque's tactics will work. Let's see. But I really sincerely doubt it because as we all know, as we've seen, the way that the arrest was conducted was very professional. Let's give credit where credit is due.
Okay, we're entering the realm of speculation here, but you know, yung General Torre talked about dilatory tactics during the day of the arrest. Yung talagang, ewan ko kung anong delay ang gusto nilang mangyari. And here again, delay. Bakit? Anong inaantay nilang political ongoings in the Philippines? What is the interest of prolonging this thing?
And of course, we can all just
Speculation to,
speculate,
pero
right?
from an educated speculation.
Educated speculation. You know, based on my experience as a practitioner, sometimes you just need more time to contemplate. We're all in shock here. I'm sure no one is more shocked than their camp because they've been acting like they're beyond the law, that the international law will never caught them. And they're shocked and surprised. So you need to get your acts together, deliberate, buy more time. Otherwise, in 60 to 90 days, pre-trial will start and you have to prepare your defense. You may need more time, considering that I really honestly think the pieces of evidence are available. We've seen the Filipino people, a lot of Filipinos killed under the previous administration. These are facts that we're seeing. It's
Broad
well
daylight.
documented. In broad daylight, these are well documented as well by human rights groups, by the media, admitted no less than by the president. We have Senate investigations, Quadcom investigations.
Even the ICC on their website, right, asked for
Correct.
testimonies.
So even the CHR, led by Senator Laila de Lima, had investigations
Early
about
on.
the Davao Death Squad. Those are pieces of evidence already available in government record. The Senate hearing that she also launched, wherein she was removed afterwards and thereafter she was jailed, right? And then we also have the Quadcoms, hearings. Pieces of evidence were offered there as well. We have the Commission on the human rights groups. So there are a lot of well-documented, crimes that happened, even by the media. Patricia Evangelista came up with an entire book on how she saw it firsthand. So, meaning to say, there's so much evidence and you need time to peruse through it and to actually contemplate what would be my defense, especially since he is also admitting it on record several times, which is a declaration against interest, which is the strongest form of evidence as well. It was because this is all bravado, right? To him,
He can say it's hyperbole.
but
he can say
but he thought that never will he be caught. Medyo nalasing siguro rin sa kapangyarihan. Ang tawag nila doon is hubris.
Hubris.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you for your time, Attorney Dindo De Leon, speaking to us, pero we'll be seeing more of you,
yes,
right?
in just a few minutes, yeah.